and just do this whole competition and just let everybody know.
I've got more. This is the beginning.
Oh, I know you do.
That might be the reason to go back to live meetings.
I don't know about that. Yes, Kevin, you have a really nice spread behind you.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Athletic fields.
Yep. Yeah, West Ashley Park, and a little bit of Lake Dotter are in there too. On the
Yes, I see it.
Yeah, I was at rode my bike through West Ashley Park a little bit this weekend. It was nice to see people being active, and if people were moving. There weren't big crowds, but there were a lot of people moving around in the park. Nice to see people back out there again. So.
Right. Because it looks like we really don't know how long this is going to take. I think it's going to be a while. I'm really concerned about the students.
I know.
But they're being tutored, you know, as best the teachers can. But I'm really concerned about them. Yeah. If they fall behind and then be expected to catch up the next year, especially if they're not the greatest students.
Yeah.
I share your concern.
Yes.
Yes, we all do. It is going to take a village, Vanessa.
Yes. Well, we're on time.
Where's the mayor?
All right, sorry about that. Caught up on something. So, welcome everyone. I guess it must be 5.
I don't think you're the only one, Mayor.
Oh, okay, it's only 5.
You can probably see more people than I can.
Okay. So I'd like to call this emergency meeting of Charleston City Council to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? We'll get going.
Yeah. Councilwoman Del Chapo.
Here.
Councilmember Shealy.
Here.
Councilmember Sacklin.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Here.
Councilmember Brady.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Seeking.
Here.
Councilmember Shade.
Present.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Appel.
Here.
Councilwoman Jackson.
Here.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
I'm here. Now on the spot, Councilmember Brady, could I ask you to open us up with a prayer this evening?
Sure.
Yep.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for a beautiful day, even as we cope with the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. We pray that you will guide our decisions and help us do the best for our citizens. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 So much. So we'll have a little update on our city's response to COVID-19. And I think you've all been following the media. The numbers, they just keep on coming. In the meantime, the governor issued a new order. I got a copy of it actually this morning, and we'll talk about that in a little while. So let me go ahead and call on our emergency director, Shannon Scaff, to give us a little daily report. Shannon?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. All objectives remain in effect. Internationally, there have been 3,562,919 cases with 249,712 deaths as of 4:30, according to Johns Hopkins. In the United States today, there are now 1.1 million COVID cases and 68,326 deaths. According to DHEC, as of 4:30 today, there are presently 6,757 cases statewide and 283 confirmed deaths attributed to COVID-19. Last week, South Carolina averaged 178 new cases per day and saw an increase in case fatality rates from 3.3 to 4%. Dr. Richardson from DHEC stated in an update today that 1 in 4 deaths in the state are attributed to patients or staff in long-term care facilities. The latest DHEC report states Charleston County had a total of 464 cases and 7 confirmed deaths attributed to COVID-19. Charleston County averaged 7 new cases per day last week, with current DHEC reports showing a gradual decrease in the per capita rate since the beginning of April. This rate shows Charleston County at 112.78 per 100,000, placing the county at 23rd in the state out of 46 counties. Case fatality rates for the Low Country, which include both Charleston and Berkeley counties, continue to be approximately 1% less than the state. For Berkeley, there are currently 190 reported cases and 11 confirmed deaths attributed to COVID-19. Berkeley County averaged 2 new cases per day last week, with current DHEC reports showing a per capita rate of 83.37 per 100,000, placing the county at 32nd in the state, again, out of the 46. Dr. Richardson added in her update today that the positivity rate in South Carolina is presently 10.3%, representing a slight decrease and could be an indication of more testing occurring across the state. Additionally, DHEC intends to add data regarding testing sites in the coming week. Charleston County's mobile screening and testing program, partnered with Federal Health, successfully went live today in North Charleston, with the testing site receiving over 80 participants. The first mobile testing site within the city of Charleston will be this Friday, May 8th, at the Magistrate Court on Morrison Drive. Operating hours are 9 to 4. Individuals do not require an appointment, but have the option of requesting a pre-screening and may register at federcovid19screening.org or by calling 1-800-365-7410. Citizens are asked to wear facial coverings or masks and to practice safe social distancing while at the mobile testing site. Charleston Police Department responded to 6 calls for service regarding large crowds or gatherings in the last 48 hours. Overall daily call volume remains lower than average, while assault call types continue to trend slightly higher than normal. Charleston Fire Department was dispatched to respond to 48 possible COVID-19 calls since Friday. If I could get everyone to mute their, I'm getting some feedback on my side. Livability and tourism officers continue to distribute city ordinance information as well as social distancing and sanitation guidelines to reopening businesses, while also assisting in the inspection and servicing of city storm drains and preparation for any severe weather. Trash and bulk item pickup, public services working diligently to complete all backlog collection routes by the end of the week. There are currently no issues with police or fire personnel lacking PPE during calls for service. With 1,330 employees accounted for in 15 departments reporting, 35% in the office, 13% from home, 31% in the field, and the remaining 20% are on some type of leave. Calls to the Citizen Services Desk on Friday continue to average 200 calls a day. The 2 biggest topics of concern were questions regarding parks as they reopen and garbage collection. Charleston Area Convention and Visitors Bureau on Friday reported 27 hotels open in the city of Charleston, with 53 in the Charleston area. And pending your questions, that's all I have for you this evening.
All right, any questions for Shannon? All right, hearing none, we do have a matter of emergency approval for a DHEC grant amendment in the sum of $147,000 and some change. This comes from our fire department.
Move for approval.
Second.
To approve in a second. Any questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And opposed, the ayes have it. So next for discussion is a proposed emergency ordinance to decrease risk in restaurants. And as I mentioned, there was an announcement Friday by Governor McMaster that he would go ahead and allow restaurants to serve in outdoor dining areas effective today. And he shared, it's not in his order word for word, but he referenced a set of guidelines by the South Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association that had been put together for this safe reopening of restaurants and further to come lodging in our state. And so basically what we did to kind of reinforce the importance of reading those guidelines and following them, we took the key guidelines out of what's recommended by the governor and presented them here in this ordinance for your consideration this evening. And I know once again, these things happen quickly. If y'all want to we can talk about the matter tonight. If you want to vote on it tonight, that's fine. If you want a couple of days to chew on it, I don't think a whole lot of restaurants are going to be opening up between now and Wednesday. If you want to vote on it then, I kind of leave that at the pleasure of council. But let's go ahead and open a discussion regarding the matter if we may. Councilmember Jackson and then Shealy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I would be flexible to pass it tonight or wait till Wednesday. I would defer to our officers who would have to be out there trying to enforce, brand new restrictions or changes to what they've already been counseling business owners, restaurant owners to do. So if a couple days wait would help them be better organized and people a little more knowledgeable, that would be fine.
Well, Councilmember Shealy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, the governor, what he put out under his temporary outdoor seating guidelines, are those enforceable for us the way it's written now, or do we have to have this ordinance in order to enforce this?
Well, we feel that it adds enforceability for us on the local level, to be honest with you. I think there was some questions that since those recommendations were not physically incorporated into his order, that some clarity would be helpful to, particularly on the items that were most relevant, most important. I will say about the enforcement, I mean, when it comes to restaurants, there's some areas that typically DHEC would be responsible for enforcement about sanitation and about those kinds of inspections. And the city's not looking to get into that business, to be honest with you. We're looking mostly about the spacing, how, just like we would in the retail stores, whether people are advertising how many folks, allowed in the premises, are they spacing properly? We can measure the distance between a table. We don't feel like we have the trained personnel to be making DHEC style inspections about sanitation like they would normally do for a restaurant. So I just want to make clear, we're not looking to go to that level of enforcement, or we would be educating in terms of having the whole set of printed copies of the whole set of recommendations to make sure that a restaurant really looked at them, in addition to being able to do those things that we're kind of already in the business, if you will, of checking and recommending.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, could I just say one follow-on thing then? In response to what,
Councilmember Shealy first. He had,
oh, I'm sorry.
he had the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I kind of put these side by side, and it looks pretty similar to me. Is there anything different in the ordinance than there is that the Restaurant Association and DHEC put out? I mean, are we doing anything differently, or is it? I mean, I'm looking at it, and it looks pretty close as I'm looking at them side by side.
There are a couple of minor changes. I think we got specific on the fire marshal occupancy that the statewide regs did not include. But could I call on Susan Herdina, if you're on the line, and help me out if you're aware of other differences?
Yes, sir. So just to directly answer Councilmember Shealy's question, under the governor's order, it just requests that the restaurant industry consider these guidelines. It is so the guidelines under his order would not be enforceable. And so, as the mayor said, what we're doing is taking the extra step, as we've done before, which is basically to incorporate the guidelines in our ordinance, which then does give us some more authority there. To basically go out, I would say, educate and work with the community and potentially warn them. But as we've seen from the other actions that we've taken, and Dan and Chief Reynolds can speak to this, I mean, we are finding that, you know, we're getting really good compliance with our ordinances, and we expect the same will happen here. I would say that there are very few differences between what the restaurant industry had recommended, and I think, and Councilmember Saccharine, you can help me on this because I know you had a chance to review this, but we're generally in line with the guidelines that the associations have proposed. I can't think of anything that really sticks out that's different. We've incorporated in this ordinance a few of the other requirements regarding signage and the employees wearing cloth masks that we had incorporated already in our earlier ordinances, but generally this tracks the guidelines that were proposed by the Restaurant Association.
Back to Councilmember Jackson, you had a follow-up question.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Del Chapo.
Thanks. Yeah,
Oh, okay. We're losing you anyway. We'll come back, Councilmember Jackson.
I would just.
Councilmember Del Chapo.
Sure, thank you. My question was mainly along the same lines as Councilman Shealy's. I didn't really see much of a difference between what the governor outlined and ours. So thank you, Susan, for explaining that. So similar to the situation we were in a week or so ago, I guess we kind of, we get into this difference between the state and the city. And so if we don't vote on this tonight, let's say we take it on Wednesday, what the state has in place goes. And regardless of what happens on Wednesday, what happens in the state supersedes, correct? Or the enforceability of the city then takes over. I guess I'm trying to understand, the time sensitivity of it, because restaurants are opening up, and sure enough, even on Daniel Island, I see them out there spacing the tables and chairs and things like that as they're directed.
So just using that as an example, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, so if we waited till Wednesday and somebody opened outdoor dining tomorrow and they decided, well, the governor recommended that I keep my tables 8 feet apart, but I'm only going to keep them 6 feet apart. You're right. That we could go and suggest that they follow the governor's recommendations, but technically we wouldn't be able to, at the end of the day, write them a ticket. By passing this, I mean, that would never be the first thing that we would do, is write somebody a ticket. Mind you, we'd always, you know, cajole and educate and all like that. But this would add that enforceability that at the end of the day, if the guy refused to keep his tables 8 feet apart, that we would be able to give him a ticket. So, and by the way, 8 feet apart is just from table to table. So that doesn't take into account the chair and the person sitting in the chair. So it's really less than 6 feet apart for the person. I'm presuming each person would take up a little more than a foot. But anyway, just thought I would point that out.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
So,
I'll come back to Councilmember Jackson now.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate hearing, you know, Susan Herdina's explanation of the difference, and also just, you know, thinking through, I guess, in light of the fact that we do want to have the enforcement opportunity, and tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo, and I already know, you know, outdoor dining establishments out here on Folly Road that are planning on making that sort of like their entree into summer. So on that basis, I would make a motion that we adopt this emergency ordinance tonight.
All right. We got a motion. Councilmember Saccharin.
I think Councilmember Shealy had his hand up before, or Councilmember Shade had his hand up before me. You can go, Peter.
Councilmembers Seekings and Appel had their hands up as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can go ahead before me. I'm happy to wait.
Okay. Seekings, Appel, and then Shade, and then Saccharin. Councilmember Seekings.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just be brief. I think the important distinction, which Ms. Herdina pointed out very clearly, is that the mayor's, the governor's order is a set of non-mandatory guidelines. This will be adopted as an ordinance. I do think that as we're coming out on the backside, an industry that has been decimated by what's gone on in the world, we need to get this in their hands and have them look at it before we tell them we're about to put a law on their head before they even get started. I would ask that we defer this until Wednesday so we can look at all the provisions in it, make sure the industry understands it, and make sure our enforcement people understand it. So I would ask that we defer it so we can get out there and talk to the industry about it, please.
All right. Well, formally, we don't have a motion because I didn't hear a second. But anyway,
I'll make a motion to defer to Wednesday, please.
Okay. Well, second. Actually, it was on the agenda just to discuss it. So
okay. Well, that's fine.
Councilmember Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, I got this ordinance in my hands this afternoon, just like everybody else, and spent some time going through it and trying to understand it to the best of my ability. This is a set of very complicated, specific regulations that businesses are being asked to comply with. And we need to balance the regulations with the deregulatory steps that we need to take to actually make this feasible for people. So when I hear about outdoor dining, sidewalk permits, coming up with ideas for allowing restaurants to operate in parking lots, perhaps maybe in parking spots on the street, if we can incorporate the necessary protective elements, because the restaurateurs and brewery owners that I speak to, they don't know if they can make this work with these types of regulations. And again, I'm not criticizing or challenging the various health and sanitation restrictions. That's above my pay grade. But I do think that we need to be cognizant that nothing about this is easy for these small businesses. And if the intent of the governor is to open up these businesses and help get these businesses back off the mat, we need to look at our ordinances, our procedures, our zoning, our traffic and transportation to find ways to actually make this work on a practical level. And that's certainly not going to be accomplished here on the fly. That's something that's going to really need to be studied and looked at. So I'll give you just one quick example. I remember, from my time on the BZA that in order to get a zoning permit for outdoor seating, the sidewalk has to be a sufficient width, right? Or you have to come in for a variance from the BZA. Maybe we can pass an ordinance to allow staff to make those administrative tweaks, so we're not getting the rulers out in the measuring tape. We're being a little bit more flexible on those issues during this time to allow restaurants to even have the opportunity to have outdoor seating and have it in a way that actually makes business sense, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. So I think that, I do think that the industry needs some time to digest this. I don't think we're going to lose a whole lot between now and Wednesday, but in the meantime, as we're tightening these restrictions, let's also find ways that we can loosen up things where feasible and reasonable to allow these businesses to actually thrive under this new regulatory environment. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Shade.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we need to pass an ordinance that addresses this. I think it's very important we do that. But I also think we need to balance it to make sure that we've got the industry's voice on this thing, so we don't have something that we should have included or we've added something that we don't need to include. I have some very specific questions on this ordinance. For instance, under item number 3, the first double I, a group of 8 individuals seems like a large group of people to me, unless it's family members. And I would probably either want to amend that or make a qualification that it only applies to family members. When it gets down to the item about this 3 XI, seating about 50% of the occupancy, is that 50% of the interior of the occupancy, or is it 50% of the interior and exterior of the occupancy, or does it take into consideration only 50% of what would be the exterior of the occupancy? So it's, to me, that needs to be redefined a little bit more as to what we're talking about. And then I think we all got an email concerning outdoor spacing and what is allowed with the outdoor spacing. We saw some of those emails that came through. So I want to get some more clarification about the use of sidewalks and other areas around those provisions. So I'm good waiting until Wednesday if some of those questions can be addressed between now and then. And I'd like to hear from the industry as to what their concerns are with this ordinance and what changes we think we should to include or maybe to exclude. Thank you.
All right. So before I go to Councilmember Saccharin, I'll just say on 3 double I is that we were trying to just keep the governor's recommendations in place, and the limit table groups to 8 individuals, came from those recommendations. But I hear you loud and clear. And as I said, when I opened up discussion on this, that was the intent, is to have this on the agenda for discussion. And I hear the consensus. I'm fine. Let's just wait till Wednesday and take your comments under consideration this evening. Any more you have, email me and Susan. If you get any from anybody else, restaurant owners or whoever, let us know. But speaking of restaurant owners, Councilmember Saccharin, I'm going to call on you next.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to say thanks to you and Susan for turning this around pretty quickly. I know it was a lot. I heard a lot from business owners this weekend just needing clarity. And I think this does provide, and actually, a lot of it mirrors to what the governor has proposed and what the hospitality industry has proposed. So there was nothing in here specific that I thought was incongruous to what was already being proposed. So in that regard, I think it's a great first step. I kind of see, our steps forward in 2 boats. One is, the health and safety piece, and then to what Councilman Appel was kind to was touching upon was what can we do and within our own levers in city government to help small businesses. I think part of that is the idea of thinking creatively about our parking spots. A lot of small businesses downtown do not have access to outdoor dining. So if we're going to be in this posture for a while, I think it'd be behoove us to get some of those restaurant owners to the table, talk with them, to Councilman Seeking's point. Let's invite them to either a Zoom meeting, or let's get their pulse and figure out what they need. But from a health and safety standpoint, I think we're going to get a lot of support on this ordinance, mainly because it mirrors to what's already been provided. There are a few things in here that I think we need to address. For example, the hand sanitizer, as easy as it seems, we have to make sure that's available for small business owners. It's not readily available, believe it or not. So if we're, to Councilman Appel's point, if we're going to put things in here, we didn't make sure that business owners have access to them. But other than that, I support it. It's a great first step on the health and safety piece, but I really want us to come back and think about some other, what I call potential for expansion for small business and helping them reach potential, get back on their feet, that are not health and safety, and they're just maybe some levers that we can press within city government.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm meeting tomorrow with Meg Thompson, who's our Director of Business Services. She's been compiling a lot of some of y'all's good ideas about what we can do on the business side. And we can have a discussion about that Wednesday night, if you like, along with this, along with any other recommendations. And I would say that you hit the nail on the head, that this is the intent of all this, once again, is all about health and safety. And I would like for Charleston to have a reputation 2 and 3 months from now, a year from now, that we took the steps to be the safest place that we could possibly be. And I remain convinced that that's going to lead to a more robust recovery by going the extra mile now, rather than letting things get out of hand. We've been successful so far in managing our numbers. So anyway, it's all part of that theme. But anyone else? Yeah, back to Councilmember Sacker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more point to mention is, we should rely on some of the recommendations that Low Country Local First has provided. They've been hard at work. I know Meg has been compiling, and I've been sending stuff to Meg, and I just want to, tip my hat to Councilman Appel. He's been working behind the scenes and sent you some items, I believe, last week or the week prior. So all that really should be compiled into one document. And I would strongly recommend, just from experience, my 4 months here on the process, is let's put those recommendations in front of the council, and let's have a discussion about it as a package for small business owners. I think that would go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna, there's no need to vote on deferral. This was just up for discussion. Never got a second on the motion. So if it's everyone's concurrence, we'll just hold this matter and discuss it further, take your recommendations, and take it up for a vote on Wednesday, along with a discussion about some other business matters. All right, anybody else want to make comment now or anything else for the good of the order? All right, hearing none. Oh, Councilmember Dale Chapo.
One quick question. I've noticed that, all of our emergency ordinances, they started on March 16th and they run for 60 days. So we're going to be coming up on May 16th fairly soon. So when we hit that time, would all of these then need to come back up for consideration of extension or expiration, or?
So we've intentionally been putting things together on the same date. Mm-hmm. So that they would be congruent time-wise. Admittedly, some of the things over the last 6 weeks or 8 weeks are now maybe moot or not applicable anymore. So again, Susan, boy, she's working overtime, is going through all of our emergency ordinances to date, and probably either later this week, probably early next week, maybe at our regular council meeting, we'll bring to you those measures that we feel need an extension and propose how long that extension would be, some of which, but keep them all together, the ones that we want to try to extend forward. So
Okay.
that's our thinking, and I would bet we'll put that on next Tuesday's regular council agenda for the 12th.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Hearing none, we will see y'all on Wednesday, and have a good evening on this beautiful day. And thanks for being with us.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you all.
Same to you.